OG have just been eliminated from both the Tier 2 FISSURE Special as well as the Tier 3 CCT circuit.
And DAZE has recognized it. GG is called. OG has fallen. They will be eliminated from the CCT Series 8 by none other than ENDGAME. He's going to charge forward, but the Abyssal on towards 423. The BKB is just too late. And the GG call is going to be thrown out by the former Avulus player STORMSTORMER. OG tap out of this one and are going to be eliminated from the FISSURE Special.
So is the new OG squad still finding their pace, or is this a forewarning for them? Let's break it down. OG has picked up several players from other teams. Their most recent additions are STORMSTORMER from Avulus, KIDARO and LAMA from Nightpulse, and 423 who hasn't really played for any notable teams recently, and of course you have DAZE who came in from Navi Jr. This isn't a lineup to scoff at. STORMSTORMER has had major success with Avulus qualifying for those lands such as ESL Bangkok and PGL Wallachia. Meanwhile, KIDARO and LAMA with Nightpulse broke recently into the Tier 1 scene as well with the recent FISSURE universe. DAZE has had a lot of success with Navi Jr., who has also managed to qualify for Tier 1 events such as the next PGL Wallachia. So what's going on? Let's take a look at the players themselves. Previously, with Nightpulse, KIDARO in over 92 matches boasted over a 62% win rate with a 3.1 KDA, but ever since making that transition on towards OG, he's played, sure, only 15 matches, but an abysmal 20% win rate and a drop in KDA to 2.38. Now, there's something interesting about KIDARO's hero pool. These are all meta position 5 heroes who are hotly contested in most current drafts. A notable point is that KIDARO is a phenomenal hard support player. His high KDA, which is rare for a position 5, suggests that he is very active and maintains a high kill participation, lending to his near 60% average win rate. Notice the silencer though. While he maintains a similar KDA and kill involvement, his win rate drops significantly. This is not a coincidence. The nature of the silencer is that you need to have good coordination, because the ideal use of the global silence is to deny the opponents the ability to counter-initiate. A lack of teamfight coordination and lackluster decision making means that the silencer is going to suffer with the team, which is a severe problem in OG currently, which we'll go through, by the way, with gameplay examples of OG. This explains why his win rate with silencer is less than 50%, but again, this is likely to improve as OG's new roster finds its footing and improves upon its coordination. DAZE is one of my favorite position 4 players. I've had the pleasure of casting the individual players on OG for around a year now. I genuinely believe this young lad has an extremely bright future in competitive Dota, boasting a near 57% win rate in over 400 matches with his long run with Navi Jr. He's actually been with OG a lot longer than any of the current players have. He was with OG when the squad still had 9 ceb and 23 savage, and he played with them in the Asian Dragon series as well as the recent FISSURE universe. But the struggle is much the same, whether it was a roster with former TI champions or the current one with highly up and coming players. A win rate of 25% is just not good. Now, you can see why this 19-year-old is so promising. He's an extremely aggressive player who almost always manages to land those skill shots. Whether it's the ice shards or a perfect dead shot, I've personally witnessed these phenomenal plays time and time again. Boasting a near 60% win rate with most of his heroes, there's a recent trend to be found though. Despite having a high kill participation on that Immortal, his win rate is at a 44%. Now, there are two reasons for this. One is simply that Immortal, despite being a strong pick, has been struggling to win matches as evidenced by recent Tier 1 tournaments. But the other reason is that Immortal is a tempo pick. The dead shot can create an opening, but again relies on the team gaining additional control at the back of it. And OG is currently struggling with maintaining control in their team fights, which we'll also go through with some gameplay examples later on. Another big factor for OG is that Morta gains or gives additional stamina to team fights. Her ultimate means that you'll be able to dish out additional damage in fights, but OG often find themselves in situations where their team collapses before that stamina can be of any use. LAMA is one of the more veteran players of OG, besides STORMSTORMER of course. He previously used to play for the South American squad Team Heroic and then transitioned to Team Nightpulse, but he had a lot of success with both of those teams, boasting an average of a near 60% win rate and a KDA of more than 3.5. But ever since making the transition to OG, his KDA has plummeted to 2.8, which suggests that OG aren't able to make proper use of the space this offlaner creates for them. Now, before you look at these stats, I'd like to tell you that they're pretty elusive. Don't get me wrong, LAMA's record is amazing, boasting a near 4 KDA and a 55 to 60% win rate across his hero pool is no joke. The problem is, an offlaner is designed to initiate, at least that's how OG looks at an offlaner. If you look at LAMA's recent record, despite whichever initiator he's tried for OG, they simply can't manage to win. And the reason often comes down to the fact that initiators need to be in perfect unison with the rest of their team. Otherwise, those openings won't really do much. That's what goes wrong for OG so many times. And don't worry, we'll actually take a look at gameplay examples demonstrating the mismatch between the initiation from LAMA and the lack of real follow-up from OG. Now, it may not be a surprise to anyone that I am a huge fan of STORMSTORMER, having been following him since his journey with Avulus throughout CCT, including following most matches Avulus played at those big tier 1 LANs, so much so that I genuinely felt proud of how far this Dota 2 player has come. He also happens to be one of the most wholesome personalities in Dota 2 esports overall. STORMSTORMER quickly proved himself to be a daring mid player with Avulus, often at times making the riskiest of plays while making it work flawlessly with the rest of his team. Avulus really seemed like a well-oiled machine with STORMSTORMER at the forefront of their initiations. However, STORMSTORMER seems to be the least hit with the transition to OG. He's been able to maintain his KDA, which has only suffered a minor fall. This suggests to me that he's able to perform on that mid lane in much of the same way, successfully creating space for the rest of his team and finding the right angles time and time again. Now, when we talk about 423, I will preface things by saying that perhaps the sample size of his recent showings is too small, considering the vast majority of this player's games were with GeekFam, having played 702 games, but that was several years ago. It does feel like a bit of a mismatch between 423 and the rest of the squad. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's a bad carry. He boasts an outrageously high KDA of 7.9 just 2 months ago with Into the Breach with an eye-watering 65% win rate. Even though most of those games were not against tier 1 teams that the rest of the OG squad are used to playing against. Having gone through so many games of OG, unfortunately, 423 doesn't maintain or increase the tempo handed over to him. Whether it's LAMA creating an opening or STORMSTORMER, 423 is often seen a few seconds behind, which in Dota's split-second decision making is unforgivable. I would give the benefit of doubt to 423 though. Perhaps if OG are able to fix the overall lack of coordination, 423 can shine, but there are several good carries that have tier 1 experience that OG can look towards. Remember the clips in the beginning? Well, turns out they're actually the perfect examples. They go back, buying back for one last hurrah. They don't have any of their ultimates up, but still trying to fight against Endgame right now. Will it work out? The Stampede being executed. KIDARO doesn't have the ultimate, but they're trying to hold the Nature's Prophet in place. In exchange, OG are also losing out on a lot of their HP. Do they really want to be going back in? LAMA moves strong forward, but the Astral Imprisonment keeping the Nature's Prophet alive just for now. As the LAMA's BKB has ran out and he's going to end up falling probably, but is the Monkey King over on that backline who's in trouble? He's going to end up losing his life. 423 is down now and OG have to get back, but will Endgame allow this?
Doesn't feel like it's going to be anything that OG has to offer. There will be no buybacks. There will be no chances, and DAZE has recognized it. GG is called. OG has fallen. They will be eliminated from the CCT Series 8 by none other than Endgame.
Now things didn't start off bad for OG. In fact, OG seemed to consistently perform pretty good in the early game.
The Nande doesn't have any support nearby. They've already got players heavily into the small side camp, and with the TP coming out from the Wind Ranger, this might be a turnaround. Double SA Spartan isn't going to be ready for this one, and GZ should be going down to the power shot. Kill shot comes into play, and while Spartan chases up, he's suddenly realizing this is becoming difficult. Spartan should be going down over here as well, and indeed he will. MC doesn't have much to add to the conversation other than a kill on KIDARO, and even that isn't guaranteed because DAZE comes in with the kill shot, the difference maker again and again.
But despite having a good start and possessing a 4K lead in 14 minutes, OG would proceed to make a dubious decision attempting to penetrate into Tier 2 territory with just 3 heroes, costing them their entire lead.
Feels like there might be an initiation over here. They will have the blink forward. There'll have to be some dragon on dragon action, and STORMSTORMER finish off double assist spotted. Now the question is, can Nande do anything about this? The shackle shot will be dodged, which tosses the Dragon Knight back, and STORMSTORMER will only be given solace thanks to the Echo Storm. And as Nande continues to fight, it's the backlines that are suffering. This Dragon Knight has no backup though, and it's going to end up being a 1-for-1, but maybe not done yet. Surge onto Wish, blink forward, he's got the avalanche, does he have the toss? No targets nearby to toss him backwards, and another Echo Storm should be enough to dissuade. In the meanwhile though, Wish will already have found the kill.
In fact, I remember being baffled by OG's decision when it happened in the game. They didn't even have their heroes in position, right? The Magnus wasn't there. It was just 3 heroes being led by STORMSTORMER, which is, I would say, not the ideal play because there's not a lot of real follow-up that Elder Titan provides you. You just have that kill shot and that breath of fire, which does about, what, 700, 800 magical damage, but that's it. Dragon Knight just has a blink dagger, so no real physical damage coming out of him quite just yet. And that means you can't take Wish down, you can't take a Lifestealer down, and if you're trading a support for a core, at the end of the day, that's never going to be worth it. Even up to the mid game though, OG held the advantage. A full 7,000 net worth lead 30 minutes in, but this one single mistake is going to shock you.
Where there isn't that tier 3 tower, so the smoke is not going to be popping right where you'd expect it to. 423's got to be careful. He's got to be careful. He's a goner and he knows it. Now we'll be trying to keep him alive with a Glimmer Cape, but OG cannot do so. No buybacks either. It's already in the base. His high ground is already gone. They just don't know it yet. Buyback from the Elder Titan will do what it can, but while there's Divine Lama skewering back Nande into the tier 4s, he's just got the rage, and there's a toss back on the other side.
But despite that, OG still managed to claw their way back into the game through Lama's clever play.
Will not have the mana, so he has to TP back to base. In the meanwhile though, there is a skew onto Nande, but he wants it. He wants that action, an RP, a refresher, another RP, and back to the fountain. Maybe that's how they make it work, and that's exactly what happens for the Aegis. But remember, in the backlines you are losing out, and your barracks is Echo Stomp to try and keep Nande out and over. A horn toss into the fountain, they need it all. But in the meanwhile, the damage, they can't deal with it. Elder Titan already down. Divine Lama with the BKB backs off. Double shackle shot from DAZE will keep MC nearby, but as mind control is now finally being focused, 422 will get this kill that he has been so desperately hunting for.
OG were finally back, carrying a 12,000 net worth lead, but the lack of tempo coordination would result in further cracks in OG's team fighting.
The same intentions. There's a fight in the back line. It's already begun. Mind control makes its way over, and right now it's going to be another double RP onto the players you want. That's the problem with the Infest bomb. Sometimes the bomb come right back. The wall of replica doing what it can with the damage, but it's going to be the death of Nande. Still kept alive for a while longer. Will he be able to re-engage? Maybe. 423 will settle with mind control, but as Nande makes his way over again, 423 is a goner. No satanic used over here. Nande now wants to fight. There's no big bad PA. DAZE is going to fall.
These cracks added up to a complete breakdown of communication, with OG's heroes literally going their separate ways.
That's up and backs off. He's fine to giving up his Jakiro for this one, and STORMSTORMER's got to be careful pursuing so far forward. Jeezy's the one who's been targeted. There will not be a Phantom Assassin nearby. Jeezy keeps himself alive for long enough for Nande to back up and fade away. And while that happens, it's going to be STORMSTORMER who's been turned on. Spartan finding 2 with the Macropod.
You might think that OG would be a lot worse against a tier 1 team, but you'd actually be wrong. Even against Extreme Gaming, OG managed to get an ideal start.
And in fact, it's not a move towards those heroes, but in fact, it's a move for the Shrine of Wisdom. Will Extreme Gaming respond on towards Zinq, the teleport coming in from Tianming, but what is it going to be? What is it going to manage here, as there is a STORMSTORMER channeling his Wukong's command, but there is an epicenter being channeled here as well. Of course, the majority of the epicenter pulses are going to just time out over here. STORMSTORMER trying to hold that Shrine of Wisdom. Tuskar Snowball is going to push XS out. Shrine of Wisdom going the way of STORMSTORMER as he is taking a lot of damage, but will end up surviving as 3 heroes from Extreme Gaming fall to OG 7 minutes in.
Ramping up kills through the early to mid game, gaining a 13 kill lead and a 4,000 net worth lead through solid teamwork.
So they have the perfect initiation, a global silence right on top of that Sand King. He's going to end up falling. Ame will be able to secure the kill on towards the Dusk, but he's left here stranded. Meanwhile, Templar Assassin is going to be coming in. A boundless strike to reverse it on towards that Ursa. He's going to die. Zinq was just forced to watch as the Fuzzy Wuzzy over on his side was taken down.
But despite having the Aegis and so much advantage, this shocking overextension from OG cost them severely.
Epicenter on towards 423. He's going to end up getting bursted down. No way out. The freezing field from the Crystal Maiden has just done so much damage to his STORMSTORMER's bounced behind that tier 2 tower, and even behind that fissure. That's not the place where you want to be, as the Ursa warrior is here through that teleport and will be swiping STORMSTORMER down.
A great initiation from Extreme Gaming actually left OG in a great position.
A minor misplay costing him his life, and they're going to go in. Echo Slam from Zinq on towards STORMSTORMER. He's going to melt 423, trying to go for that return. He has that Aegis, will be able to clean Ame up as the rest of Extreme Gaming retreat.
You will think that having a farm carry with an Aegis whilst the enemy's carry is dead is a significant advantage. The problem was, 423 never purchased a BKB, and well, you can just see what happens next.
XS is going to go back in with that epicenter. Gyrocopter taking so much damage. Stuck. The fissure is perfect from Zinq. Going to respawn, and the problem with not having a BKB is going to be visible, as the Gyrocopter, despite being a behemoth, is not going to be able to do anything. OG are going to be team wiped.
By the time 423 got a BKB, which was 12 minutes later, OG were simply not in a position to fight any longer, as they had fallen too far behind.
Ame plunging forward on towards that Gyrocopter, but the save coming in from DAZE through that snowball means that Extreme Gaming have to disengage, but the Ursa warrior forced to turn around and fight, but the Echo Slam on towards 423 is just going to melt the Hurricane Pike, buying him some amount to stay. This time he does have that BKB, but it's run out over here. One Melt Strike will just finish him off. OG faced with yet another team wipe.
And in the end, despite playing the better early game, the theme with OG in both their recent series against Endgame and in this series was lackluster coordination, and they were forced to throw in the towel.
Here, STORMSTORMER is down 2. Gyrocopter may have respawned, but what can he make happen with this? He's going to charge forward, but the Abyssal on towards 423. The BKB is just too late. And the GG call is going to be thrown out by the former Avulus player STORMSTORMER. OG tapped out of this one and are going to be eliminated from the FISSURE Special.
I don't want to point the finger at any specific player or suggest any roster changes, because honestly that's just up to the organization. But having gone through these games, as well as covering OG's run in PGL Wallachia Season number 3, the Asian Dragon Series, CCT Series 8, as well as the most recent FISSURE Special, what I will say is this: there isn't a lack of capability. The success OG has in their early to mid game is a testament to their individual skill. But the red flags with their team coordination and decision making are pretty clear. OG will need to figure out who's going to call the shots, and those decisions need to be respected. Practice with tempo coordination is desperately needed if this lineup has any hope of succeeding.